Okay, so recently we found out that someone had made a Wikipedia page for TLDR, but it turns out that a lot of the information on it isn't true, and much of it is wrong in a kind of hilarious way. So given how seriously we take facts and fact-checking in our videos, we thought it might be fun to fact-check our own Wikipedia article. So let's get into it. The article starts by saying that TLDR News is a YouTube-based news organisation launched in 2017 by a 23-year-old computer science graduate. Now, this is mainly true. TLDR did start in April 2017, and I am a computer science graduate, which is why I'm not allowed to write any of our videos anymore. But I was born in August 1996, meaning I would have been 20 when I started TLDR, not 23. Anyway, the article continues by naming me, Jack Kelly, and by noting that I was living in United Kingdom, which should be living in the United Kingdom, but we really can't be getting into spell checking too, otherwise we will be here forever. Anyway, TLDR News was created for people under the age of 35, with 70% of the audience being aged 18 to 34. Now that is true, TLDR is geared towards a younger audience. I mean, many of us are young people too, but these days those numbers aren't quite correct. In fact, if I look at them here, over the last year, 65% of our audience on TLDR Global has been under 35, 63.6% on EU, and 65.7% on UK. So it is still a majority, but it is slightly less than 70%. Anyway, I'm being picky. The article continues by saying that the organisation has 11 employees, all being in their 20s. Now, obviously, we don't need one of those in theirs, but also there's some factual errors there too. We currently have 10 full-time employees with a handful more people who work on a contract basis. Also, we're no longer all in our 20s, unfortunately. As time goes on, we just get older, and this probably was true whenever I was cited as saying it, but it no longer is. Next, the article says it has annual revenue of nearly 1 million sterlings. That should be an annual revenue, and referring to it as just sterlings is very odd, but I kind of love it. Regardless, over the last year, our revenue has actually been just over £1 million, which is good news. Although our costs have also increased quite substantially too, so it's a bit of a mixed bag. Anyway, we'll be diving much deeper into our finances in an upcoming video, because every year we make a video where we run down exactly how much money TLDR is making and how we're making it. So if you're interested in that, if you want to know more about TLDR's finances, then keep an eye out for a video about that in the next month or so. Next, the article says that as of 2024, TLDR News have 700,000 plus subscribers on their main channel. It seems here that they're talking about the TLDR UK channel, which was our original channel, but we certainly don't think of any of the channels as being our main channel, and this number is out of date anyway. Regardless, it also says that TLDR has 6 channels, which is technically true, but also technically we kind of have 7, depending on how you count it. Regardless, we only actively post on 5 channels at the moment, with TLDR Business likely to return at some point in the future, but not really being active right now. So it's fair to say this number isn't technically wrong. You could say any number between 5 and 7, but 6 probably isn't the number I would have chosen. It then goes on to say that on those channels, we upload approximately 3 videos a day or 4 videos per channel a week. Now, this is a difficult number to pin down because the number of videos we make a week varies quite significantly. On the TLDR Daily channel, we tend to publish basically every weekday, and then we post between 10 and 14 explainer videos on the other channels. Although this number fluctuates a lot based on news cycle, our team's availability, our production workflow, all kinds of things. And which channels get those videos also varies depending on which stories we think are most important. So it's certainly not true to say that we post 4 videos on each channel each week, because sometimes there's tons on one channel and very few on another. As such, it's probably fairer to say that we post about 2 videos per day, including weekends, though even that's not really right. The acronym TLDR News stands for Too Long Didn't Read. That's true. And TLDR News is owned and operated by 326 Limited. That's also true, although it's worth noting that I own all of 326 Limited, so it's not like there's some weird third party owning us. I started the company this way just so that if we wanted to make other brands other than TLDR, they could all live under the 326 umbrella and there wouldn't be confusion about the company being called TLDR, but then us doing other things called other things underneath that company. And bonus points if you can work out why the company is called 326 Limited. Anyway, let's move on to the history section, where it says TLDR News was created in 2017 by a 23-year-old computer science graduate, Jack Kelly. reportedly to help young viewers understand global news. Again, I wasn't 23 at the time, and also we originally made videos only about UK politics, so I'm not sure that the global part of that is true either. One of the main reasons that Kelly started the YouTube channel is because he was disappointed in the UK's mainstream news lack of social media presence. That's true. The channel was created during Brexit, which he said have made the channel lucky and caused it to have increased following. Now, this is weirdly phrased and also contains some grammatical errors, but I do think we kind of were lucky in a way. I'm not sure I'd say it like this, where it kind of sounds like Brexit was our lucky charm or something, but we were fortunate in the timing of when TLDR started, that there was a lot of confusing news coming out of the UK that was also interesting to a big global audience. So I think ultimately it was a good time to start TLDR. It was fortunate that we started at that time, but I'm not sure Brexit made us lucky. The channel is mostly focused on audience under the ages of 35. Statistics showed that 70% of TLDR news watchers are 18 to 34 years old. I probably wouldn't go for watchers, I probably would choose viewers, and also as we've gone through, those numbers aren't quite correct anymore. The headquarters of TLDR News are located in South Bank district of London. Now, this was true at one point. We were based out of a building right by Oxo Tower on the South Bank. However, about a year ago, we moved north of the river to Clerkenwell, which is where we're based now. And if you want to know more about that, and if you want a full tour of our office, including both of our studios and the working space out there that you never see, we have that coming up in an exclusive episode of The Bullpen very soon. And I'll tell you more about that at the end of this video. The organisation of TLDR News employs 11 people, all of whom are in their 20s. It has annual income of approximately 1 million sterlings. There's so many small things here, let's just correct them all in one go. TLDR News earn 55% its money through ads and 40% through sponsorships with various companies handled by TLDR's agent Nebula. As I said, we've got a full video coming out soon about how we make our money and the exact breakdown of where all of that comes from. So make sure you keep an eye out for that for the latest numbers. But I will say that these aren't a million miles off, even if the grammar around it could do with a bit more tweaking. Other 20% revenue comes from payments for panel talk appearances. Now, while those first two numbers were about right, this definitely isn't true. We'd love to make £200,000 a year from just talking on panels, but in reality, over the last year, about 1% of our revenue has come from speaking fees and panel appearances. Although if someone does want to book us for tens of thousands of pounds, then I'm sure you can reach out over email. TLDR News has 6 other channels, like TLDR Global and TLDR EU. The channels upload approximately 3 videos a day or 4 videos per channel per week. Now this is kind of true, although calling Global and EU other channels feels a bit weird when we treat them all exactly the same. Also, this does contradict the article further up when they said we had 6 channels total. Now it's 6 other channels, presumably in addition to the main UK channel. Also, all of these numbers are wrong, as we have already discussed. From 2017 to 2020, the channel received 350,000 subscribers. That's right. The main channel of TLDR News would reach an amount of 676,000 subscribers in 2023 and over 700,000 subscribers in 2024. Now, these numbers aren't quite right. According to our statistics, it's actually 716,000 by 2023 and 827,000 by 2024. And again, using just the UK's numbers also feels a bit weird, as I've mentioned a few times. So these combined numbers might actually make more sense. In fact, speaking of combined numbers, the article continues, TLDR News has 2.5 million subscribers across all of its channels, which also isn't true. At the moment, it's about 3.64 million. TLDR News would later create their own app on Google Store for mobile devices on Android. The app allowed its users to see news in 3 sentences, which are news articles broken into only essential sentences. Now, this isn't true. I think there is a company also called TLDR that did do something like this, but it wasn't us, and it also doesn't even seem to exist anymore, so this definitely shouldn't be in here. Later, on September 14th, 2023, TLDR News would launch its newspaper, named Too Long. Too Long is 28 pages long and features various tabloid articles, written by TLDR News along with illustrations. TLDR News said that it cost $7.99 or $17.99. Now, tabloid articles does feel a little harsh, and also it's just a weird way of talking about Too Long, a project that's grown and changed significantly since then, and also doesn't cost that price anymore. It's all technically true, but it's a weird snapshot of what happened a while ago, rather than being reflective of the current. So maybe this would make more sense. In 2024, a study published by Reuters found that TLDR news is popular with young consumers in the UK, along with other YouTube-based news organisations in other countries, like Under the Desk News. That's all true. Then finally, in the content section, it says, reportedly TLDR News wants to simplify political news in their videos, with them focusing on being neutral. That's true. When making videos, TLDR News reaches out major media outlets and people for them to help in researching topics they try to explain. Now, grammar aside, this also isn't really true. I can't think of an example where we've reached out to a media outlet in order to research our videos. TLDR News searches press releases, official documents, transcripts, and records when finding topics to discuss and producing a video. Now, this obviously isn't all we do when making videos, and it's slightly odd to include, but it is true, I suppose. TLDR News is reportedly independent, with their news being described as impartial and apolitical. And this is true. We try and make our videos as neutral as we possibly can, and I still own the whole company. So we truly are as independent and apolitical as I think we could possibly be. Thumbnails of its videos use simple graphic elements, mostly featuring light backgrounds with bold text and a single word highlighted in a bright colour. Thumbnails of TLDR videos were part of a case study on January 2022 by Siebely. Now, this is broadly true. It's a little odd to mention a case study I'd never even heard of before, but I suppose it's sweet that someone's talking about my thumbnails, so I guess I like it. Reportedly, in most of the videos, hosts of TLDR will sit behind a desk and say well-planned, opinion-free, teleprompted monologue on camera, mimicking a style of BBC News. I find it funny here that it says reportedly, when surely this is something you could easily verify. I'm behind a desk right now. You could just look at this and confirm it for yourself. But anyway, I don't think that we're remotely similar to the BBC. And it's especially odd to reference the BBC specifically when, loads of news people sit behind desks. It's so much of a trope. That's why we do it too. Reportedly, TLDR News tries to make their content short to make sure their viewers save time. They also write short articles. Now, this isn't true. Besides in too long, we never write articles. It's not like we have a website where we publish articles too. But I suppose it is true that we do try and keep our videos as concise as possible in order to keep things easy and efficient. Videos of TLDR last for approximately 10 minutes, being uploaded on 5 different channels about different political topics. Yet another different number being cited for the number of channels we have. So maybe it just is baffling to everyone how many channels we have, given that this Wikipedia article has said 7, 6, and now 5 different channels. It published videos like How a US Defense Pact Could End the War in Gaza, which received 190,000 views and 1,000 plus comments, or the UK Election Results Explained, which received 1.1 million views 2 days after the 2024 UK general election. Now, both of these things are true, but it does feel a bit weird to pull out 2 totally random videos here, but fair enough, I guess. One of its videos, which discussed Hungarian politics, specifically how Viktor Orban is going to lose the 2026 parliamentary elections, was analysed by Hungarian Conservative. Now, I didn't know that this had happened, but it turns out it's true. It's just a bit of an odd line to include at the very end of our Wikipedia article about how one video was referenced by one place. But I guess, go off, Hungarian Conservative. Talk about this as much as you want. And that is the entire article. That is our Wikipedia page, it turns out. I don't know if it will look the same by the time you get there, because maybe people will make edits on the basis of this or whatever else, but I certainly hope they clean up the grammar, because it's a real mess. But while I have you, and before you go, if you're interested in this channel, which hopefully you are if you've made it this deep into a stupid video like this, then I'd really appreciate it if you considered picking up a copy of our magazine, Too Long. Now, you probably heard way too much about this in the end of all of our videos, but let me quickly explain why it matters. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to do a full video soon running down the details of our finances, where we make our money from, and how much money we're making. But honestly, the main takeaway of that, and something I can tell you in advance, is we're not making much money. In fact, a lot of months we're losing money. Now, you might see the big numbers on YouTube, you might see all of the ads for Ground News or whoever else, and assume that we're doing great. And honestly, we're doing pretty fine. We're managing, but life isn't incredible for a content creator like us. It costs a lot of money to make TLDR's videos, especially at the frequency and cadence we do. We continue to do it because we think keeping you up to date is really important, and we continue to spend as much money on fact-checking, sourcing, and creating all of our graphics as we do, because we think that's important too. We don't want to compromise on any of those things in order to become more efficient or to try and make money. As such, we're reliant on our audience and people like you who really believe in what we're doing. And one of the best ways you can support us, one of the best ways you can keep this business running and keep our journalism high quality and free, is by directly supporting us through Too Long. This is the latest issue of Too Long, which is coming out in a few weeks' time. And as you can see, one of the main things we discuss in it is the end of the American order. The feeling that things are changing in the world right now, and the American way is no longer as dominant as it used to be. In that section of the magazine, we discuss our thoughts on everything from the collapse of democratic norms to if America is losing allies, and if the country can maintain its dominance in energy and tech, before discussing who could potentially take over in a post-American world. So if you want to find out what we really think about America, now's your chance. It's not just the US either though. This issue is our longest ever at 78 pages. So we also get into stories like why El Salvador and Kosovo are becoming the world's penal colonies, if the UK is lacking vision at the moment, if Europe can really defend itself, and why leaders like Putin and Netanyahu seem to be getting away with it. Plus, we also have a full interview with Professor James Kerr-Lindsay, who you might also know from YouTube, all about the collapse of the global order. Now, if that all sounds good to you, but you'd rather listen than read along, then you should check out the premium edition. Because anyone who buys a premium edition of our magazine also gets access to our recordings of selected articles. Plus, you also get access to the full 90-minute interview with James Kerr-Lindsay. On top of that, premium subscribers also get access to our behind-the-scenes podcast, The Bullpen. Regardless of whether you opt for the regular or premium edition, if you never want to miss an issue, then make sure you subscribe to Too Long, which gets you 20% off every copy as long as you stay subscribed. Plus, this week only, if you use the code BESTOFFER when signing up for a subscription, you'll get an additional 35% off. That brings down the cost as low as £5.20, or a wild 48% off. That is the best offer we are ever going to offer. So pre-order your copy today to get yourself that extra content and support all of the journalism we do here at TLDR every single day.